What's up, everyone? This is another episode of Tatum Takes, where this is my segment where I like to just discuss things that's going on in music culture, just get things off my chest, right? So today, I'm continuing my journey, recap takeaways on the Kanye West Netflix documentary Genius. Part 2 was just released on Wednesday. I believe it's titled Purpose, and it dove a little bit more into the creation of College Dropout and just what happened at Rockefeller after he signed. So if you enjoyed the first one, I'm sure you'll enjoy this one too. I have some stuff written down. I really don't do anything in order. I have 9 things that stood out to me in this particular part. And feel free to let me know in the comments with some of the things that stood out to you in these documentaries, part 1 and part 2. If you haven't checked out my part 1 recap, I'll put it up here somewhere as well. But let's get into it. The first one is something I think is a continuation of one I had on my list last week, and that's Rockefeller not fully believing in Kanye. And it's people come out to dispute that. Wayno, Big said something, Hop said something on Twitter just to give context to some of the scenes, which I thought was pretty dope. But when the documentary opens up and they're on the set of One for PD Crack, and I think Kanye was in that video, if I'm not mistaken, like a small shot, but you could tell like no focus was on him, and you see, I think his name is Big Face Gary, talking to Kanye, saying like he's the best rapper producer, and he's like, man, that's like saying I'm the best kid rapper or the best woman rapper. I want to be seen in the light with these niggas, State Property, the Jay-Z's. Like, you putting that producer tag on me is like dimming my light in a way. And just the fact of how much he had to go through with the video after the car accident, getting shelved, and pretty much like all momentum stopped, and he still was actively grinding, man. Like, just grinding more than anyone on that Rockefeller label, which goes to show like you get what you put in, right? So that stood out to me. The Rockefeller still not believing, and he's spitting raps. And mind you, I don't have this on my list, but I'll add it. Being alive and in that era of Kanye in 04, 03, 04, he didn't rap that good. Let's just be truly honest. And I'm the biggest Kanye fan on the planet. Like, at least one of them. I don't want people to hate me for that either. But the raps just wasn't that good. Like, and that's just truth. Like, but like he said, he worked at it and he got better. You think being around Jay-Z, Scarface, and all these people not gonna make me a better rapper? My beats wasn't blueprint level when I started. Like, I love hearing that aspect of it too. But let's be honest, the raps wasn't that good. Number 2, I have the recording session for Slow Jams, which I thought was just magical. I remember that song coming out while I was in middle school, and how that just changed everything. Like, it was just that Luther Vandross flip, the Jamie Foxx on the hook, and to see Jamie Foxx, I've heard him tell stories about the creation of this song in numerous interviews, but it's nothing like seeing it, and how Kanye's coaching him how to say it this way, and that intro was just perfect, and how he walks in and the guy forget his name, but he was like, when we just having this conversation about how the song's too fast and no more slow jams type shit, and Kanye spitting his verse, and that's not even completed. He didn't even get to the dark skin friend look like Michael Jackson. He didn't even get to that part yet. And I read on Twitter this week that Twister verse was almost lost. Like, they had to find it on like some backup hard drive somewhere in somebody's apartment. Like, it was that close to being lost. Like, he kept trying to redo the verse, but it didn't have that magic, which would have been crazy. But Slow Jams, if you were alive in that era, you know how big Slow Jams was so good that it was a single for 2 different albums. It was a single for Twista album, Kamikaze, and it was a single for Kanye's album, College Dropout. That's how big that single was, like top 10 hit. 3, the car accident. I think, obviously, right? The car accident was just a major, to piggyback. He was going to LA to work with PD Crack, and I've heard stories of Who Kid and Ludacris saying they was in the studio session before he crashed his car as well. Even with the momentum he had going into Rockefeller, that car accident was like a blessing in disguise. Like, even the fact that he couldn't get his jaw fixed and everything that was slowing him up helped catapult everything. Like, and even the dentist, like, you can't film it here. And he was like, I can't. I thought that part was funny. Like, the dentist just totally threw ethics out the window. But that car accident was just major. And that leads into my next takeaway, Through the Wire. For those that remember Through the Wire, like in that version too, it's a version with an Elton John sample at the end that was like the first original one where he says, and it plays in here. He says, at the same hospital with Big and Pac died, which isn't true, so he had to change that line. And the one with his jaw is really wired shut. The one that we got on College Dropout now is him redoing it with his jaw not shut, and I think it's layered over top of that old vocal. Listen to it. I remember that. I remember that Through the Wire video. I remember it premiering on MTV. I remember that vividly, and how that song impacted. And just those beats, man, those soulful beats was just like between Through the Wire and slow jams. It was nuts, like nuts. And them funding that video and sneaking into MTV to finish editing, and him paying $30K out of his pocket. I thought it was funny at the video premiere at the 4040 Club when Dame just pops up, right? And Kanye's giving a spiel about how the record company ain't back him, and it was just great to see that on footage, right? Another take, 5, I guess, was the Jesus Walks video, and I was seeing a lot of mixed reactions to that. That and how Kanye left Cootie when he went on tour, but you could hear the disdain, the hurt in Cootie's voice when Kanye's like breaking it to him. Man, I'm gonna need hype to do this, and you could tell he really didn't want to say it, but it had to be said as many times. Like, but I fuck with y'all, I love y'all, like, but it's hype. And the funny part that it was 3 Jesus Walks videos. You could take a look at all 3 of them. I'm pretty sure they're on YouTube. But I remember, like, damn, it's another Jesus Walks video. Shit, it's another Jesus Walks video. It was the one where he's walking with Jesus. The one where it's the actual church one. I think that's the one Hype Williams did. But just great. And it shows his evil geniusness, right? Even at that level, to an artist saying, I want to make 3 videos. Can you imagine if Freeway was saying, like, I want to make another video for What We Do Is Wrong, or Flip Side? Like, it wasn't even heard of at the time. Again, this is not in any order. So I have next just the impact of the College Dropout. Everything about that album, the rollout, I think is the perfect. This was back when albums were the rollouts were perfect. Like, the image matched everything. It was just a perfect rollout, from the booklet where they have the yearbook and rappers and him in the jersey and the mascot, like, and the creation of that blended between that creation of just like the normal guy that can rap, but I also like nice things. It was pre-College Dropout and it's after College Dropout, like that album changed everything. It still is. Like, you could tell now that how far it's charting. It's like number 6 on the iTunes chart, and it's still his highest selling album, which I didn't know till I watched this documentary. Just the impact of that album was great. If you got any College Dropout memories, drop them down in the comments. 7, I felt, how we always say, and I mentioned this in the first video, like, well, a lot of people say I miss the old Kanye. This next point, I think, is something prevalent in him to this day, and that's the need for attention. Unfortunately, as a Kanye fan, it's always something that bugs me, because it's like, man, you're the greatest. Like, you ain't gotta really do this trolling stuff, or you don't have to want for attention, And one scene that stood out to me the most, and it's a passing by scene, is when he's trying to sneak into the studio to use Ludacris time, and it's a little boy in there, and he's like, you know who I am? You heard of H to the Izzo or Bonnie and Clyde? I produced that. I'm Kanye West, and he's trying to like sell himself to a 10-year-old. Like, you know how, yeah, like you try to sell yourself to a 10-year-old. But I understand. But at that stage, I could kind of understand it. But when it transforms into something that it is now, it kind of like, it's one of those, for lack of better words. But just something I noticed. And that leads, it's funny, I had this next, number 8, which is still in studio time to make his debut album. How he tried to get into the record plant. It was like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, he's trying to scam his way into there before Ludacris get there. That part, or using Jamie Foxx's home studio, or just using the time that he had while producing to make his records, I thought was just that drive and hunger that probably an artist would be terrified to do now. Like, just terrified. But he wasn't, man. And he gained the respect of a lot of people. You see Ludacris and Pharrell, like, man, that he left Ludacris session after making Breathe In, Breathe Out, right? Probably Stand Up too in that session. Ludacris praised him, man. I didn't know how good he was, but he's really good, right? Boom. I ain't leaving the studio yet. Pharrell's down the hall. Let me see if I could get into his session. You know how, like, man, just that drive and hunger. And then go in there and spit for Pharrell, who listening through the wire, he like, I want to play you one more joy. He did it for Mos Def too. I want to spit this rap for you. But just to play through the wire and see Pharrell's reaction and him leaving out the studio and like, did you even realize what it was? And he's like, yeah, I heard him say, even spit through the wire like that. And just see how close they are now. They like they're equals, two godfathers, right? And just to see him still passing those views to Kanye at the time just shows you. It made me think, damn, Pharrell's been at this for a long time. Like a long fucking time. But it was just dope to see if him parlaying those relationships to record this album before Rockefeller opened the budget for it was just dope. And last at number 9, I have the Grammy speech. And I mentioned this in my review of part 1 when he said he was practicing his Grammy speech, but now we see it. I mean, I've seen it fucking all my life, but you see that Grammy speech and you could just tell the excitement. He had the most nominations that night, and him saying like everybody wondered what was gonna happen if I didn't win. And then the genius quote of it all is, I guess we'll never know. Just genius, man. That Grammy speech is everything. And to have his mom there in the performance, I don't know if you guys caught that, but his mom was one of the people on stage when he was performing Jesus Walks, which was dope. I remember him saying that his mom always wanted to be in entertainment and an actress and things of that nature. So it was just dope to see her kind of live out her dreams vicariously through him at the Grammys. That's pretty much all my takeaways that I got from part 2. I enjoyed part 2. I won't say I like it more than 1, but I did love it because it gave me a little bit more backstory in the creation of that College Dropout album. And here's him spit spaceships in that moment, in that passion, in the dark. Like, when I listen back to Spaceship, the hunger that he has in that verse, you could tell he had to spit it in the dark. And then the New Year's party and just the journey of like all that hard work paid off. All those years it paid off. And from what I've heard about the last part 3, which is like probably going to be around the 2020 campaign run, it might get a little sad. It might get a little sad is what I'm hearing. But all in all, I think right now this is probably one of the best music docs I ever seen. If you enjoyed this one, come back for part 3. And let me know in the comments what some of your favorite moments from part 1 and part 2. What stood out to you the most? What did you learn about Kanye that you just didn't know before? Let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. And that's pretty much it. As always, I'm Tatum. Peace.